Hey, this is Robin Kirby-Gatto back again with Cooking Keto with Kirby-Gatto. The only thing right now that we're going to actually do is actually a video specifically for women, and it is going to be a broadcast that's going to bring you such great information if you're on the ketogenic diet, if you're almost at the point of perimenopause, if you're perimenopause, and even if you're menopause. And also, you'll be able to take information from this and you'll be able to add all this good, rich information that you're going to get about today's video and teaching in order that you can even share it with your husband, because actually what we're going to be even discussing today could be an issue that even your husband might have. So all of you coming on here, you be ready to get some awesome information about the ketogenic diet and also about the issue of being in a place where you're in a transition and your hormones are just going through different things. So those of you who are used to my regular teachings, I will be actually teaching my regular teaching tomorrow. This particular video is going on my keto video channel, and I will put it up on my Facebook as soon as I get it uploaded. But my teaching tomorrow will go on my regular channel, Robin Kirby-Gatto. So as you come on here, you will get some information. You'll be so excited. Hey Eva, so good to see you. Awesome to have you on here. And we're going to get some awesome information. I know some of y'all might be expecting my regular teaching, but today is actually a ketogenic video day, and tomorrow will actually be the teaching. Thank you for joining in. I see a few y'all coming on. Let me get my glasses on. Hey Monica, just saw you. Come on. Hey Jonathan, it's so awesome to see you guys. Doreen, Eva, Shirley, Cindy, thank you for joining in. I see you, Stephen. Hold on one second. Oops. Stephen, Sandra, Dixie, Chris, thank y'all for joining in. And if you know any friends, especially women, that need this information, and for you men watching, you can watch this for your wife, and your wife will be so grateful to have this information. It is absolutely amazing. So I'm going to wait just for a couple more people to come on, and then I'm going to go ahead and start doing my informational video for all of you women that are going through a special change in your life, which many know is perimenopause. A lot of women go through that for several years before they actually get into that menopause stage. And I'm going to give you some examples, some awesome examples as we look at some information today that is going to be a game changer in that season for you, and it's going to just absolutely push you through into a new level. I've been on the ketogenic diet going on 2.5 years. It has absolutely changed my life, and I have learned so much being on the ketogenic diet that long. I'm going to share my personal testimony and what God has revealed to me recently that has helped me on this ketogenic diet. And I've got some little things that I'm going to show you in a minute, as well as my super surprise hidden supplement that is a massive game changer that will absolutely blow your mind. And again, for those that are expecting my regular teaching video, I will be teaching tomorrow. For those that are watching today, you will love it. It's the ketogenic diet. I'm mainly going to be talking about women, but let me tell you too, men, that my husband has been taking this supplement that I'm going to introduce in just a little bit, and it has actually changed his life. And since I found this supplement that I'm hiding and giving you information before I show you the supplement, so you can be changed. My husband, Rich, has actually gained some muscle as we've been doing our weightlifting continually. Rich has actually gained more muscle from being on this supplement. And again, I want to save it because I want to give you the information, scientific information, before I actually get into what this supplement is and then what it can do for you. And I'm going to reveal some of the hurdles that I've crossed over in being on the ketogenic diet, especially as a woman, 50 years old. I started it when I was 48, and now I'm 50 years old, fixing to be 51 this weekend, and it has absolutely changed my life. I found about the ketogenic diet not from any person. I did not hear anybody talking about it, and I know people that do not know me very well, that are not on my regular YouTube channel, and you might be watching this video, that you might think this is crazy, but I never heard about the ketogenic diet until I was in my kitchen one day. And while I was in my kitchen, there was a supplement, and it had Keto, and immediately I heard that still small voice of God inside of me, and God said, Robin, there's a diet called the keto diet, and you need to get on it yesterday. And when he tells me to do something, I'm like, yes, sir, okay, I'll do it. And so immediately I transitioned, because I was at a point where I had hypoglycemia, I had acid reflux, I had thyroid issues, adrenal issues. I had symptoms at that time that were much like fibromyalgia. I had issues in other areas with my gut. I had pain, chronic pain. I was constantly sleepy. I mean, it was just horrible. I just did not want to be alive. And when I came across this diet back in 2016 and started this diet, it absolutely took away every single one of those symptoms, and it has forever changed my life. That is why I believe in this diet as a lifestyle. Generally, most times, Rich and I will at least carb up one weekend a month or one day a month, but I have not carved up. It'll probably be about 3 months by the time I get ready to carb up. So generally, I keep my carbs about 20 carbs and below. I've got some other ketogenic videos that are actually on my teaching channel. I'm a Christian author as well as a minister. And get my latest book, Clawing and Gnawing. It's on Amazon. It's absolutely amazing. It's great for entertainment. It's a great fiction. And so I am so busy with writing and staying focused, and I needed that extra mental clarity. So not only did it help with my physical symptoms, but it also just woke my brain up to where I could really write and produce the kind of work that I want to produce. I generally produce about a 350 to now this latest book is almost 400 pages, a 350 plus page book every 4 months. So imagine the intensity that's required for me to just stay focused and on target to produce that kind of work and to get it out so people can read it. And so there are many benefits with a ketogenic diet. Not only does it do physical symptoms, but it also helps you with alertness and with brain activity and just being able to use your brain in full functionality. When we look at today, I'm going to share my personal testimony and what I experienced, because a lot of people do not know that. And although I've been on the ketogenic diet for almost 2.5 years, all you've ever seen are my postings and my teachings about just the great things about the ketogenic diet. I did not share my inner struggles with the ketogenic diet because I did not want that to be out there. I only want to encourage people for this lifestyle. I truly believe it's a God-send, and anybody that has an issue, let me just preface this, that I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, I'm not a nutritionist. I am a person that has a testimony from being in this lifestyle, and I absolutely want to promote what it's done for me. And hopefully what it's done for me as I share that today, hopefully you can just take some wisdom and pearls from that and just take some considerations. Do your own research, talk to your doctor, and see how it is for you. And so when I started the ketogenic diet and I knew I had to get on this diet, immediately I started seeing good effects. But first, before I started seeing those good effects, I went through what's called a keto flu, which is basically a carb withdrawal. I'm not a sugar person. I do not like desserts that much. My desserts used to be sweet peas. I would get a can of sweet peas and put butter on it, and that would be my dessert. I'm just not a really big dessert person, so if I ever want a dessert, that's really a huge thing. But I do make some keto desserts. I actually made some awesome cheesecake a couple of weeks ago, and I'm about to make some lemon squares this weekend for me to celebrate. I'm so excited. But when I started the ketogenic diet, I had the carb flu, which is pretty much what it is, keto flu, and I had headaches. I had just lethargic and feeling aches and pains, just not feeling good. It felt like I almost had the flu, and that is when I found out that I needed to increase my sodium because I was sodium depleting. And so actually the immediate weight I lost was because of sodium depletion, where I was losing water weight, and as I was losing water weight, sodium was coming out of my body, and so I increased my sodium. So I always tell people, listen, you have got to stay on top of your body. Your sodium and your potassium are so important. You cannot play on this diet. You've got to take it very serious. You have to do your research. You have to talk to your doctor and know what you're getting yourself into, because if you're not and you're not using wisdom, you can actually harm yourself and end up injuring yourself, and you do not want to do that. So one of the things I learned especially is about sodium and about areas in potassium to make sure that my sodium and potassium levels were always good. Now, Rich immediately lost 10 pounds when he got on this diet. I was not getting on it just as a weight loss tool. I was getting on it as a lifestyle, knowing that the chronic disease symptoms that I was experiencing were going to go away. Because isn't it interesting that in our ancestors past, our great-grandparents, that most of our great-grandparents passed because of a severe sickness, or as we see, and of course centuries ago, plagues and stuff like that. But now people die because of chronic illness. Do you know that chronic illness used to not be an issue before? But since we have all these GMOs, since we have food toxins, since we have plastics in our food and all that's coming across to us, and since our environment is so toxic right now, it's affecting us, and it's actually going to get to the topic of what I'm going to discuss today, which is going to be one of the game changers that you're going to get on the ketogenic diet. Why? Because I have been faithful. I am super strict on the ketogenic diet. Most of the time, I'm generally about 10 to 15 carbs a day and below. A lot of times, I do intermittent fasting. Sometimes I'm not even hungry. I don't want to eat. So there would be days that Rich and I would, especially this year, that we would just do total dry fast. What is a dry fast? It's like what you see in the Word of God as Esther. When Esther fasted, they had no drink and they had no food. And so we've gone with actually not having food or drink for 2.5 days. We've gone just with a water fast a day, or we've gone through a lot of intermittent fasting. So we've brought a lot of this in with a ketogenic diet, and it's totally changed our lifestyle. And as I look at that, I would go through the last 2.5 years, and I mean, I was super strict. I was right down to the calories, right down to doing everything like I was supposed to do. And Rich seemed to have a greater success than I did as far as losing fat more than normal as far as me. And I noticed that I didn't have as much success as losing fat. For me, when I got on the diet, I mainly wanted to lose about 10 pounds because that's what I was comfortable with. I'm comfortable because I have an athletic build. I'm not a very skinny person. I have that athletic. I'm going to have muscle on me. My body is just built for muscle. And so I'm going to have that athletic build. So I just wanted to literally lose 10 pounds of fat. That is all I initially wanted to lose. And I wasn't seeing that success. In fact, the opposite happened. Instead of losing weight, because I was increasing the fat immediately at the beginning of the diet, I started to actually gain weight. And I did a lot of research, and I looked at it, and I saw where a lot of women in about my age group, in that perimenopause state, were having the same issue, where instead of initially losing weight, they were actually gaining weight. Thank you, Kathy Forbes. They were gaining weight because of the increase of the calories of fat. But you have to understand this, that fat is good for you. I've posted a few videos on my wall about the myth of fat, the fat myth, how doctors are worried about your cardiovascular system, they're worried about high-fat diets. It is all a myth, and it is all geared by agenda that does not want us to be healthy. Instead, the agenda is to promote processed foods, to promote plastics, and I'm going to get into that in a minute, and to promote things that are actually not good for our body and are killing us and are causing things to interfere with our ability to take nutrients in and to have those nutrients converted into enzymes and into the particular genetic markers that will switch our flips of our DNA, we'll turn on the switch of our DNA, where those nutrient enzymes are actually going to affect our DNA in the expression of them. As we look today, I'm going to share some information about what happened to me and was a game changer, because after I gained a few pounds, I actually gained probably about 6 to 7 pounds, all of a sudden, about a year after being on the ketogenic diet, I lost all those 7 pounds, and so I was excited to see that. At least I was losing the weight that I actually gained. But the thing that kept me going on the diet was actually the energy level, the great feeling I was feeling. I felt better than I had felt in decades. I actually feel like I did when I was in my late 20s. And I just feel so energetic. I feel full of vitality, full of vigor, full of life. And of course, I could just function like crazy in writing and ministering. When I would minister before, I would generally preach probably about an hour and a half. After I preached an hour and a half, then I would minister to individuals. And it would generally, most times, go on for 3 to 4 hours if it was a small crowd. it would generally go to 3 to 4 hours. And sometimes, like I've told you, the longest I've ever ministered after preaching was about 9 hours. But after I would minister, I would wake up the next day before I was on the ketogenic diet, and it felt like I had gone out and just drank a 12-pack, and I had a hangover. And I was like, why do I feel this way? Well, I found out, as we are a glucose burner, which is not what the ketogenic diet's about. It's totally separate. It's totally opposite. When you are a glucose burner and your body, and you're stressing your body out by either working out, by working, by ministering like I was doing, just putting all that I had into it and just going, that stress on the body actually caused more glucose to be released, and it actually ended up being more toxic to my body, because actually glucose being released and burnt as fuel in your body actually emits toxins. It's not pure. And so after I got on the ketogenic diet and I switched my fuel source from being glucose burning to being fat burning, I began to burn pure fuel, so that when I preach and when I minister and put all that time and hours into ministering to people, I wake up the next day and I don't have a recovery period. I don't need any recovery time. I don't feel like I have a hangover, because I immediately still am refreshed. And this is what's interesting, because this is what's going to be a game changer for you. And so I had stayed on the ketogenic diet, and I'd watch Rich's success, and Rich at times would even say to me, he'd say, Robin, you need to cut your fat down. You need to do this. And I'd cut my fat down. I mean, I was just going down to nothing a day. I mean, it was just like, okay, how much can I fast? How much can I not eat? How much can I do fat? And I would check my ketones. My ketones at this time, when I was doing the keto diet before, were normally ranging from 1.1 to about 1.7, generally about 1.1. And again, I was very, very strict. I was making sure I got enough fat calories in a day, not too much, but enough for me to at least be in the ketogenic lifestyle, and for me to feel the effects and get those mental effects as well as physical effects, and have the energy that was needed in order for me to function. After I kept doing it and pressing in, I was like, okay, I've been fasting, intermittent fasting, ketogenic diet, and it's like no matter what I do, it's like the scale would not budge. And I was at times even discouraged. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get off the ketogenic diet, because if I get off the ketogenic diet, I'm going to feel like crud. Because when I carb up, on a day that I carb up, and especially if I do a lot of carbs, which I really don't do, I can feel it the next day. And I totally know how I used to feel like before the ketogenic lifestyle came into my life. And so I would just get discouraged at times and see like, well, why am I not experiencing this success? And of course, I knew that I was in that perimenopause state. And that is where women are getting ready to cross over from having their regular hormones and getting into a place where their hormones totally change, and their estrogens shut down from their ovaries, and instead of their ovaries producing as estrogen, then it switches to where your adrenals produce the estrogen, because once you go into menopause, that thing that produces the estrogen for you that you depend on ends up being your adrenals. And so in that state of perimenopause, I'd actually been on it, I'd probably been about perimenopause about 8 years. 8 years. And so when I got on this ketogenic diet, I'd already been in perimenopause probably for about 6 to 7 years, or 6 years. And so when I got on this diet, I knew that I was a different creature with this diet and how it was going to affect me. And I couldn't expect the same results in myself, and I couldn't put those same demands and same goals to come out as other people. And I had to realize, of course, Rich is a man, and men are totally different, especially when you have a wife that is in her 50s and she's in that place and process of transitioning to a new season. You cannot compare your husband and his success on your success, because you're two totally different creatures. You got different hormones, and especially if you're a woman at this time of your life. And so I would get just discouraged, and I'd be going, God, what can I do? What can I do? What do I need to do? And one of the things I found out in being in perimenopause was estrogen dominance. And I had all the symptoms of estrogen dominance. And that estrogen dominance, it was just taking over my body. I'm not going to list all those symptoms right now, because I don't want to take the time away from this actual Facebook Live for you to get this information to list all the symptoms. But you can look at estrogen dominance. But not only was I having estrogen dominance, I was having progesterone dominance. So I was being dominant in both, and it was like riding a Ferris wheel, a roller coaster, where one would be up and then the other one would be up. And so all of these symptoms were affecting my success on the ketogenic diet. So one of the things that actually began to be a game changer that started turning the tide as I just kept staying faithful. And by this time, it was probably almost 2 years of being on the diet. And at that time, I discovered the issue of plastics and how plastics was actually affecting my hormones, not only my hormones, but also my husband's hormones, because plastics created xenoestrogens. They're actually estrogens that are not natural, but they're man-made estrogens. And that those xenoestrogens, every time you use plastics, or every time you eat food out of plastics, drink out of plastics, as you see in actually a water bottle, there are normally in a one water bottle, there are 250 microplastics going into your body every time you drink a bottled water. And so all of those microplastics had been oozing into the food we get, had also been lined in some containers and some cans, but had also been in the plastic water bottles that I normally drink out of. And immediately I knew that I had to get off plastics. But at the same time of getting off plastics, I had to detox from those microplastics that resulted in xenoestrogens. And that is when I got DIM, D-I-M. I know this is backwards and you can't see it. This says NutriDim. But that is when I got DIM. And when I started getting DIM, that DIM was a game changer. And all of a sudden, those xenoestrogens started coming out of my body, and I started detoxing those xenoestrogens. I did not only take it, but my husband, Rich, takes it as well. And it totally was a game changer for him. And we started feeling more energy, and we switched from using plastics, and we switched to using metal food containers, as you see here. We also use glass containers, as you see here. And of course, we have our iron, the enamelware. But also, Lisa gave me this for my birthday. And this is the beeswax covers that you can put on top of dishes. It's reusable, it's washable, and you can put it on dishes. And then I went from using plastic water bottles to actually using stainless steel water bottles. Everything had to change because no matter what we do, we're still going to come in contact with plastic somehow, some way. But we have to put up as many hurdles in front of ourselves in order that we try to push away as many plastics as we can. So I started taking NutriDim, and that was a game changer. And I noticed a lot of difference in my body. After a few months of taking NutriDim, I still felt like I was not seeing the success. I had not dropped weight. I had not lost the weight that I wanted to lose, but I was just excited that I was just feeling even better than better. I was already feeling good being on the ketogenic diet, but now adding that detox of estrogens, of xenoestrogens, I was even doing super better. Like if that's not enough, let me tell you the game changer. So all of a sudden, I just knew the Lord put that unction in me to keep doing research. The Lord told me about DIM. The Lord told me about plastics. I just hear that still small voice. Holy Spirit tells us all things to come. I hear that still small voice, and when He warns me about something and to get away from something, which He actually warned me about water bottles, get away from plastics. Plastics are no good, and I did my research, and sure enough, it was all there. But this is what is interesting, because after doing DIM and detoxing and trying to do my best with whatever I could do to get away from plastics, and FYI, for those of you who go to the meat market, this is what I do. For the butcher, when I talk to them, I always ask them, they already know, that instead of putting our food and wrapping it in plastic, if they could just wrap it in that butcher paper, and sometimes they'll have to wrap it twice in order that they do not let the juices come out, and that is totally fine. But I try to put up as many hurdles as I can to keep plastics out of my life, because those plastics end up getting into your body. They just ooze into your body, and they seep into your body, and they end up destroying your hormones and your receptors and clogging them so that your hormones are not able to do what they're supposed to do. So that was one of the things that was really a game changer. But the biggest game changer, and what I'm coming on here today, to really help you women, because understand this, that when I was doing the ketogenic diet, very strict, faithful, feeling great, excited about how I had such clarity and I just felt incredible, I still at times would get discouraged just a little bit at the fact that I was not seeing the scale move. But again, I knew that I was in a different season, and I had not seen any videos out there on perimenopause and on the ketogenic diet. What's interesting is I actually looked the other day, and recently there have been some videos on perimenopause and the ketogenic diet, but some of those videos are actually from women that did not go through perimenopause until after they had been on the ketogenic diet. And I've been on the ketogenic diet during perimenopause, and I'm here bringing this information to you to help all of you women that are considering the ketogenic diet, that are in that perimenopause state, to be a cheerleader for you, to encourage you. But this information is not only going to benefit you, it's going to benefit your husband too. And I'm going to get into that in a minute. So I started doing some more research, and I wanted to know, look, okay, this is great with the DIM. I'm detoxing from plastics. I'm not eating processed foods. I'm not eating GMO foods. I'm being super, super careful. There's got to be something else, even though I'm going through this transition in my life. And that is when I found out about a particular thing, which is known as what is called TMG. This is actually backwards. It's bulk supplement, and this is called TMG. TMG. And I actually will put a picture of this up on my Facebook in a little bit. So TMG is actually what is called betaine anhydrous. That is actually the name that it's normally called, betaine anhydrous. And TMG is actually an acronym for a very long, particular methylation process. But this is what I discovered when I got it, that 60% of Americans, this is why this information is actually good for your husband too, is because 60% plus of Americans have a particular genetic mutation where their cells do not methylate. Now, I'm going to get into that in a minute, and actually Kathy Forbes is on here, and this is actually what I told her doctor for her to talk to her doctor about, was about methylation. And so this TMG was a game changer, and it allowed the cells in my body to do what is called methylation. I'm going to give you some information about methylation, what it is, what it does, what happens when your body doesn't methylate, because a lot of symptoms and many diseases are the result of poor methylation. And again, although some people say 60+% of Americans have a genetic mutation in their genes where they cannot methylate, actually even more scientists and researchers say it's even higher. And so when we look at this genetic mutation, what it does is it hinders your ability to do what is called methylation. Methylation is the process where you deal with toxins, where you deal with stress, where you deal with infections. It's the process where you detox. It takes care of all the issues in your cells in the place of oxidating, where all your cells start doing what's called oxidation. Or can I say they take the nutrients that you eat into your mouth, and once you eat those nutrients, if you do not have a proper methylation going on in your body, that enzyme's not working, if that enzyme's not working, then those nutrients that you're taking in, they're not going to be converted into the enzymes, into the protein that is needed, and instead you're going to have dysfunction of your cells, and you're going to have issues. And that was what I was dealing with. Before I actually get into the science of it, let me tell you how big this was. I started this at the very, very end of July, probably the very, very end, and I've only been on it for August and half of September. And would you believe I have lost almost a pound a week since starting this? Now, I had not changed my diet. My ketogenic diet was exactly the same. It had not changed. But once I started this supplement, TMG, and it's a powder form, once I started this, all of a sudden I started feeling like every cell in my body was breathing, and that's called the oxidation process. And also that gets into what's called DNA methylation, and it's also the oxidation process that goes all through your body. And we're going to look at it because actually, do you know that methylation occurs 1 billion times a second? 1 billion! 1 billion times a second. Then in order for your organs to function and your body to function, your cells have to methylate in order for everything to do exactly what it's supposed to do. So I had not changed my diet, still doing the ketogenic diet, still doing what I did every day, and had not lost a pound for a year and a half. But once I added this betaine anhydrous, which is also TMG, and again I'll post it on my wall, this actually changed my life, and I began to lose a pound a week. A pound a week! Nothing else had changed. Because one of the things that TMG also does, it does many, many things. But one of the things, I know, Sue Gailey, it's a life changer, game changer. And it just like, the fat just started falling off. And I'm actually going to talk to you about one of the studies. There are actually colleges, 2 universities, that have actually done a study on TMG, betaine anhydrous. And they did one particular study, I think it was at University of Connecticut, if I can remember correctly. They actually, and this is after I ordered it, because God told me to order this stuff. So I ordered it, and I knew I needed to have another game changer because I needed another estrogen detoxifier. Estrogen detoxifier. Oh, isn't this cute? This is what Lisa Coburn gave me. Grace upon grace. And so I needed an extra estrogen detoxifier, even though I had DIM. This was for xenoestrogens. And I needed another estrogen detoxifier for my other estrogens. And so God led me to do research, and He showed me TMG, and He said, Robin, you need to get on TMG, and that's going to be the game changer. So I needed this for the xenoestrogens, and I needed this for my estrogen that is already in my body, that my body produces, for that estrogen to also methylate and to oxidize in my cells. One of the studies, I think it's University of Connecticut, I might be wrong, but it's a university, they took actually men that had a certain workout routine, and they gave them this product. They did not change their diet. They gave them this product, and in a 6-week study, those men lost 7 pounds. 7 pounds of fat, and they gained 4 pounds of muscle. And man, oh man, when I showed Rich that study, Rich's eyes went like this, because I don't know those of y'all who know Rich well. Rich actually used to be a competitive bodybuilder when he was younger. He's 60, he'll be 61 this year. He doesn't look like it. But he actually went to national championship. So in his younger years, he actually did competitive bodybuilding. We still do weightlifting 4 days a week. So when I told him about this product, his eyes got really big, and he said, 4 pounds of muscles, I am for that. Woo! And we've actually been on it since the very end of July, actually since the beginning of August, because it was kind of in that crossover window. And I have lost about a pound a week, and he's gained muscle, and he's getting more cut. He's also losing some fat. And so I began to feel just energy, and I just felt so awesome, and I felt like my cells were breathing. And then I did some more research to find out what this methylation, oh wow, that is awesome, Sue, what this methylation process is. So let me just give you some research for you to have in order for you just to take your own tools and be able to have them. I'm going to read to you from actually an article that I'll post on my wall, but I'm actually going to read to you from a YouTube video that I took notes from. Methylation is the body's process of dealing with stress, infections, and toxins. It happens 1 billion times a second. I mean, is that not absolutely wild? That methylation, your body, in 1 second, has 1 billion times of methylation going throughout your body, 1 billion times for 1 second. So imagine how many times when you add those seconds up, how much your body is methylating. But this is the thing, is that methylation also takes in nutrients and it converts it into usable things for oxidation in your cells to bring what is the natural body's composition of CoQ10, of folate, of different things, and it produces, your body produces it glutathione, your body produces its own glutathione, your body produces its own L-carnitine. And so when you take in nutrients and your enzymes are correct and you're able to methylate, those nutrients are then converted into things that we have need of. It happens 1 billion times a second. When it's not operating effectively, then it will result in these. Hey, Sherry Stedham. It will result in mood and emotional shifts. It will result also in liver, pancreas, stomach, intestinal, adrenal, thyroid, and hormonal imbalances. It will also lead to a byproduct of inflammation, autism, Alzheimer's, and cardiovascular diseases. The other issues that arise from improper methylation. Now these are indicators to let you know that your body is not methylating, especially allergy issues, because a lot of people know histines. If you have high histine levels, it is because your body does not have that appropriate enzyme functioning, which I told you at the beginning of this broadcast, that scientists and researchers are already saying that over 60% of Americans have a genetic mutation where our bodies are not methylating properly. Kathy, if you have a fatty liver, that is exactly what this issue can address from the research that I've done, but also this DIM can address that, but definitely this TMG helps. In fact, a lot of people in the research that I did, a lot of people that had fatty liver actually got on TMG, and it took all of that fat out of their liver where they were able to be normal. This is the other issues, the other symptoms of improper methylation in your body. Remember, methylation deals with stress, infections, and toxins. Think of SIT, S-I-T. Stress, infections, and toxins. So all the stress in your body, which we are usually in a chronic stress state, that methylation deals with your stress. It deals with toxins and it deals with infections. So listen to the other symptoms of improper or poor methylation. Anxiety, arthritis, bipolar disorder, bowel function, dysfunction, cancer, chronic bacterial infections, chronic viral infections, depression, diabetes, Down syndrome, fibromyalgia, heart disease, Huntington's disease, metal toxicity, miscarriage, mitochondrial disease, psoriasis, renal failure, seizures, sleep disorder, and more. All of those symptoms are symptoms that are indicating that your body is not methylating. Methylation, I like the example this one particular researcher did. She said that methylation is like a highway. If you think of methylation in your body, it's just a highway in your body. We think of our veins and all of the veins going through our body. We generally think of that as a highway. But now imagine methylation as a highway. Methylation is like a highway, and all the cars are traveling on it. There's no blockages. Everything's going great until there is an accident. And once that accident occurs, that accident can be likened to the genetic mutation that I've talked about, where you do not have proper methylation. And because of that, that one accident can cause all of these other cars to be bound up and not go through the highway. So you have a parking lot on the highway because of one car accident. That is what improper methylation looks like. That you're not able to get the right nutrients throughout your body because of one genetic mutation that affects your entire body. The thing that I love about this scientist, this researcher, that she said, now imagine several accidents on the methylation highway. What happens is all of a sudden you have massive blockages on the highway and nothing is going nowhere. And this process looks like what we know as chronic disease. So chronic disease doesn't just result because of one thing, but it results because of many things. So although I was doing keto and doing it properly and doing it strict, the thing that was hindering me from getting the results that everybody else got on the ketogenic diet in its fullest was that my body was not methylating. And I had not heard anybody do this particular teaching with the ketogenic diet, with methylation and with perimenopause, until I actually started doing the research myself and began discovering it with my own person and began to experience great results after I made this change and my body started to do what's called methylation. And again, I'm going to keep promoting this product, TMG, by bulk supplements. Men, it will make your muscles bigger. Women, it will cause you to lose fat, and men, it will cause you to lose fat too. But this is what's interesting, because she said, and this is where I get to this supplement, she said the only way that this can be bypassed, that an accident on the highway can be bypassed, is by what is called targeted supplementation. Targeted supplementation, what is also known as nutrogenomics. Nutrogenomics is targeted supplementation. And so for me, I needed targeted supplementation for my methylation in my cells. And so for me, I got DIM to remove the xenoestrogens, the man-made estrogens. And then I got TMG by bulk supplements, and this is powder form. And now for me, I do a half a teaspoon 2 times a day. Starting out, we did a 1/4 teaspoon 2 times a day. But targeted supplementation for me with TMG was a massive game changer. What happens with methylation, and I'm going to try to make it easy as possible just for you to understand it. I'm going to give you some more facts, and it's absolutely going to blow your mind. A methyl group contains one carbon cell, one carbon atom, and then it has 3 hydrogen atoms. It's CH3. CH3, you have one carbon atom, and then you have 3 hydrogen atoms. But carbon can bind to not just 3 atoms, it can bind to 4. And so there is an actual leftover bond that is an opportunity for whatever it is able to do. And so this CH3 begins to attach and detach to other cells, and it carries out this process that is called methylation. I'm not going to get into all the science of it, and that would take a semester to be able to teach you all the science of the methylation process. I'm just giving you the basics. But your body basically gets nutrients. Those nutrients come from food, and it produces 2 particular supplements that actually add to this methylation process, and it is B12 and folic acid. Now, do not think you need to go grab and buy folic acid, because there's a whole nother video of how that folic acid is not really folic acid, and it can actually end up harming you. And instead of benefiting you and helping your methylation process, it actually does just the opposite. And I'll give you information on that video as well by a particular doctor that got into the science of it and totally made sense. So your body takes in B12 and folic acid from the foods that you eat, and those B12 and folic acids help in the methylation process in your body. And when your body takes in nutrients, B12 and folic acid, it produces and creates what is called SAM, and that is just an acronym for a very difficult name that I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce. I did not even write it down. But that SAM enzyme that's produced, that comes out of this, is actually what is the biggest thing that works in the methylation process. It works in DNA methylation. It helps with neurotransmitters. It is just like the big enzyme that works with all these things in your body and what is called this methylation process. It is interesting because methylation actually silences your bad genes. When you look at DNA methylation, your DNA tells you everything. Your DNA also has mutations from your parents. It also has your own specific unique mutations that nobody else has, from 50 to 200. But when you have hereditary diseases passed down and you look at those genes that you have, then all of a sudden that gene, through the methylation process, has what is called genetic expression, where methylation will turn off the bad genes and it will turn on the good switches of the good genes. And so your good genes will be expressed and your bad genetic mutations will be what's called silenced. This silences the bad genes, it expresses the good genes. And the SAM is what, that SAM that I mentioned earlier, SAM, is the main methyl donor. It is what's going to be carrying out this methylation process in your body the most. A particular enzyme that people do not have, that have a deficiency in it, and you can go to your doctor, you can actually be tested for this, is a particular enzyme called MTHFR. That's an acronym. MTHFR, and it's like methylfolate, I forget, it starts with an R. But that particular enzyme, once you take in nutrients, you get B12, folic acid, and it converts to this, converts to this, converts to this, converts to this. That particular enzyme right there, MTHFR, takes all those conversions and converts it into a methylation process. If that enzyme is not there, if you have a genetic mutation where that enzyme does not work, then your body will not methylate, and all the symptoms that I mentioned earlier will be expressed in your body from those bad DNA genetic expressions. When you look at that enzyme, it is the key thing to causing your body to methylate. It also, this was an interesting thing I wrote down, and I'm going to get to the article and then we'll end. And I'm going to show you also now that not only does TMG help methylate, but also God kept telling me to get my lysine out. I usually take lysine because stress, when I get stressed out, or when I get sunburned, if I'm not careful, I'll end up getting a fever blister. And so I take lysine to prevent that expression that's in my body. And all of a sudden I found out, for you women out there, after I did some research, that some researchers say that you can use L-lysine also to methylate progesterone. If you want to know the symptoms of progesterone dominance or too much progesterone, look it up on the internet. But L-lysine helps in methylating progesterone. TMG helps in methylating estrogen and also many other things in your body, which we'll get to in a second. What is interesting is that when you have proper methylation, you have your own body producing glutathione. When that ends up not being produced, because glutathione is the master antioxidant, it removes toxins and it quenches free radicals. Your body is supposed to produce its own glutathione. Even though Rich and I actually take an L-glutathione every day, even though we take one, if your body is methylating properly, your body is going to create its own glutathione. The other thing is that people might be taking supplements, and those supplements are not working because your body is not methylating, and so you're not able to absorb the nutrients of those supplements because of the improper methylation process in your body. Hey, Elaine. And so here, before I get to the article, it says also that glutathione is created from homocysteine. Homocysteine is a main key player in the methylation process, that when I told you when you take in nutrients and you have all these conversions in your body, that homocysteine is actually the place where glutathione is produced in your own body. Stressors decrease glutathione. So when we get stressed out, because remember, I told you that methylation process, remember the word SIT, S-I-T, when you think of methylation. Methylation helps with S, stress, I, infections, T, toxins. So a lot of people have metal toxicity. One of the things that you might have metal toxicity could be that your body is not properly methylating, and this success that I've experienced with TMG has totally changed my life to where now I feel like everything is working properly in my body, the cells. When you have those stressors, it decreases glutathione, and remember, glutathione is the master antioxidant. And so once you decrease that antioxidant that your body produces itself, once that decreases, it allows toxins to accumulate, and it produces what is called oxidative stress. So now your body's not methylating because all your cells have oxidative stress issues, and they are not going to oxidize because they're all stressed out. So you're stressed out, your glutathione is low, and your methylation is low, so you cannot see it. You cannot properly function in stress and infection and in toxins, and so you're a walking toxic bomb, especially if you're eating processed foods, if you're eating GMO products, if you're drinking out of plastics, if you got food in plastics. All of that is going to accumulate, and it is just going to add so much toxicity to your body. Now let me get particularly to this article, and let me express to you how potent this information is that you're getting. I'm telling you, this is a game changer. People that are not even on the ketogenic diet, I am telling you, this TMG is an absolute game changer. I remember Sherry Statham had it, Cherish had it. I remember when I was preaching in Bruton, Sherry, if you're still there, let me know. Just say, hey, it's a little bit delayed. Usually I'm about a minute behind on my side. Even though y'all are responding, I actually get it a minute later. So Sherry, if you're there, say, hey. But what happened was, I took some of that methylation, this TMG with me, in a small container, because I did not want to live without it. I did not want to leave home without this methylation. Okay, Sherry's there. Sherry, why don't you post what it did to you, friend, when I gave you a taste of this methylation? Y'all are going to be blown away, because I was just going crazy telling Sherry about this methylation, about this product, TMG bulk supplement, and I happened to be there, and Cherish was there, and Sherry was there, and I said, look, y'all just go get you a spoon, and Cherish got 4 spoons, one for Rich and I, and one for she and Sherry, and I just poured some TMG on there, and there it is. Sherry said she felt a zing. She felt so smart. Her eyes were about this big, and I am telling you, you could feel it immediately. Now, Rich doesn't feel it like that, but oh my goodness, and Cherish felt it too. It was like it went all to the front of my brain, and I just felt charged up. In fact, Sherry had a long drive to drive that night, and I knew she was just a little tired, and she had to go all that way back home. But I am telling you, just a little bit of that TMG put a zing. Yeah, Sherry, her eyes felt wide open, and she could immediately feel alert. I'm telling you, this was a major game changer. I'm telling you, I am telling everybody, get on this thing. If you have done your research, if you talk to your doctor, get on TMG. It actually comes from beets. That's why it's called betaine anhydrous. Yes, you were, Sherry. You were wide awake. It was so funny watching my friend on that TMG. I'm telling you. So let me just give you some synopsis on this article. And wow, we've almost gone an hour. This is very informative. So let me just tell you a few things from this particular article, just to let you know some information, so we can just end this. What is methylation? The topic of methylation is getting a fair share of attention lately, and rightly so. Methylation is a simple biochemical process. It is the transfer of 4 atoms, 1 carbon atom and 3 hydrogens, CH3, from one substance to another. When optimal methylation, so basically it's passing that particular CH3 atom from particle to particle to particle to cell to cell to cell. It's just like having a party with everything in your body. And that is what causes that good genetic expression, especially when you're looking at the fact that your DNA can methylate. Your DNA methylate. It is also, it says here, it has significant positive impact in many biochemical reactions in the body that can regulate. Yeah, it was, Sherry. That's the best. Sherry's saying it was the best buzz I ever had. That is the thing I can tell you. I cannot explain what it does to your brain. It just brings your brain up to like wide activity to where your brain is functioning. So listen to what happens, all the good things that can happen when your optimal methylation, that your body is methylating, it's doing what it's supposed to do. It has significant positive impact on many biochemical reactions in the body that regulate the activity of cardiovascular, neurological, which Sherry just talked about, reproductive. People that have miscarriages might be having miscarriages because they're not properly methylating. Detoxification systems, it is included also with DNA production, neurotransmitter production, detoxification, histamine metabolism, estrogen metabolism, eye health, fat metabolism, cellular energy, and liver health. So when you're at optimal methylation, all of those functions of your organ are absolutely doing exactly what it's supposed to do. I know, Shirley Noel, is that not blowing your mind? And this is what's interesting. Why is methylation so important? And again, I will post this article on my wall. The body is a very complex machine with various gears and switches and need to be all functioning properly in order to operate optimally. Think of methylation and the opposite action, demethylation, as the mechanism that allows the gears to turn and turns biological switches on and off of the host system of the body. How does methylation happen? As I mentioned earlier, it's one carbon atom with 3 hydrogen atoms provided to the body through a universal methyl donor, known as what I told you earlier is SAM, which is also called SAMe, and it's S-adenous methionine. I'm not going to even attempt it. The short acronym is SAMe. That SAMe readily gives away to the methyl group to other substances in the body, which enables the cardiovascular, the neurological, the reproductive, and detoxification systems to perform their full functions. Unfortunately, the system that produces SAMe is reliant on the switch being turned on by B vitamin, which goes to that methyl enzyme that I talked about, MTHF. MTHF, if that enzyme is not present, and remember, I told you that researchers have said over 60%, and some even say more, over 60% of Americans have a genetic mutation where this enzyme is not operating in their cells and they are deficient in it. And so what is the result? All those chronic diseases are the result. Now this is what's interesting. Well, actually, here it is right here. It says it right here. I didn't see it right here. There it is, 60%. It's backwards. 60% of people in the U.S. have a genetic mutation where their bodies are not able to methylate. When methylation switch is turned off, so you do not have that enzyme, you're not methylating, what happens is you're not creating enough SAM, which I'm not going to get into that, but listen to this. Then you're not able to produce on your own. Your own body cannot produce glutathione. It cannot produce coenzyme Q10. It cannot produce melatonin, serotonin, nitric oxide, norepinephrine, epinephrine, L-carnitine, cysteine, and taurine. Your body can't produce any of that because you're not methylating properly. So you have to use, like I told you, you can go get a genetic test and that genetic test will let you know if you're deficient in that enzyme. I didn't need to have the genetic test because I just knew, because I had so many symptoms. What is interesting is it says some essentials, nutrients for methylation. It lists active folate, which again, you have to do your research because there are some scientists that talk about folic acid, and that folic acid is actually counterintuitive to your own body producing folic acid. It also uses active vitamin B12, active vitamin B6, active vitamin B2, magnesium, and also what I've just told you about, betaine and hydrous, which is TMG, and vitamin D. Proper methylation influences so many symptoms in our systems, in our bodies, that it often gets overlooked, which can severely impact how well your body functions. And you need to get this information. You need to use it. God wanted me to come on here to give you this information, especially for women. But let me tell you, Rich does this, and it's absolutely been a game changer for Rich. As I mentioned that study earlier, by men that were not bodybuilders, they were just lifting weights, that in a 6-week study, they lost 7 pounds of fat and gained 4 pounds of muscle in that same 6 weeks. And also some of the other research I've done is it helps in depression, it helps with anxiety. For me, oh my goodness, I'll share this testimony. For me, I had what's called the startle response. And what's a startle response? That is when you get by somebody's ear and you clap, and if they go like that, that is a startle response. If you have that startle response, for me, when Rich would drive in a car, I would grab a hold of the arm thing and I would start praying, say, Rich, you're going to hit that car. Rich, you're too close to that car. You're too close to the car. And I would just be stressed out and praying the entire time that I'm riding as a passenger in the car. And that probably happened about 3 years ago that it really got to that level. I started taking this TMG and it went away like that. That startle response got totally worked out. And I ride in the car and I do not stress out. I am just totally at peace and I can enjoy the ride. I'm not worried or stressed out that we're too close to a car. And it was just a methylation process. Is that not insane? Is that not insane? It was a methylation process and my body was not methylating, and because of that, my startle response was absolutely horrible. So again, it helped that. That was immediately, like on day one, right after taking my first thing of this. On day one, it was gone. No more. And then, as I've told you, I've lost close to almost 1 pound a week from being on this. I feel incredible. I feel great. I haven't changed my keto diet. I'm doing the exact same diet. The only thing that's different is my body is methylating and I'm able to do all that's needed to be done in those conversions that happen in order that my systems can actually function. So for those of you who need help, I would highly recommend TMG. Talk to your healthcare provider about it. And yes, it's on Amazon. Sherry's saw it on Amazon. I will post an Amazon link up. And Rich and I got the biggest bag because you save the most money. This is a 2.2 pound bag. And we knew that this would last us a long time. We knew that we were not going to stop using it. Doing the research alone was convincing. And we could not wait to take it. And now the testimony, the evidence that is in our lives, it is absolutely a game changer. I could not imagine living without this TMG. And the only thing I can think of is that actually it's just that enzyme inside of me that I'm one of those 60% of Americans that have that mutation genetically. But I still think it's more than 60%. So anybody say, have any questions? Yes, get it on Amazon. And I will see you later. I'm going to try to get up later on. I'm going to do a little prep. And this is just like keto day. I'm so glad that I actually turned my book in, Clawing and Gnawing, on Amazon. Oh my goodness, that is the most awesome fiction book. You have to get it. Clawing and Gnawing. And I'm going to look to see if the paperback's up yet. But I finally got it up yesterday, and I am just wanting to get my keto cooking personality out again. So I will be doing a keto cooking demonstration today later, and we're going to be doing zucchini noodles, and we're going to do it with an Italian dish where I take tomatoes and make my own tomato sauce, but it's going to be a rose colored sauce, and it's going to be so yummy. So if you want to join me later for that, do that. I'll see you later. Bye.